Right there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Press R, coming to you live from Studio 4 of the Production Center in Bala 2. The proverb which says there is no smoke without fire has stood the test of time. Scientists, philosophers, historians, even spiritualists have not proven the contrary. Generally, what is visible and attracts attention is the smoke. We are still seeing some volleys of smoke sparked by scarcity of fuel or a semblance of it at the pumps, petrol pumps around the country. What and where is the fire that generates such smoke that has become recurrent? What is the problem? We are going to focus on that on today's edition of Press R. But you also know that the clock for the 2023 senatorial election has been set into motion. The countdown started on Friday when the President of the Republic convened the electorate, the Electoral College, if you wish. The Senate election takes place on March 12, 2023. We shall have a comment on that event of the moment. And to talk about these two important and topical topics are the following panelists that I'm going to introduce to you. We have Dr. Joe Ngale Awasume, who is a fuel tax audit expert by his right. We are happy to have you on Press R, said Doctor.
Thank you, Clear.
And I want to remark that you traveled all the way from Limbe to Yaoundé just for this program this morning.
Yes, sir. Indeed.
Hope your journey was very, very safe. We are here.
Yes,
okay.
Safe. Thank you.
Thank you once again. We are honored by your presence. And just next to you, we have Dr. Tumenta Kennedy, who is an economist, and he also should tell us the inside and outside of the fuel dynamics, in short, maybe the petroleum economics that we have in our country and around the world, making people to go into panic at one point, come back to calm. You're welcome to Press R, Doctor.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and then I just take you to my left, to the left of the set, to welcome you, Ngala Kilian Chimtom, who is an economic reporter. He has once been here doing economics, and Kilian, you should be doing well.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. We always want to have you here because your contributions always make us feel at home. And to your left, to the end of the set, to that side, is Isidore Kwakom, who is a researcher in political philosophy. We are very glad to have you on our set, Isidore.
Thank you so much. I'm also honored and glad to be here in this program.
Yes, your presence honors us, ladies and gentlemen. You see, these are the people who will be dissecting the two topics that we have, especially our focus on Press R today, just for you. And before we get into that, you know, Emanuela Venue is always there to remind us, reading deeper into what the press said during the week, and that is in our slot, Press Review. Emanuela.
The press week in Cameroon was marked by the liberation of workers of the non-governmental organization Doctors Without Borders. 5 Doctors Without Borders agents are acquitted in the Horizon to the Post newspaper after 11 months pre-trial detention. Boya Military Tribunal acquits detained Doctors Without Borders staff, and immediately after this release, Doctors Without Borders hint on resuming life-saving services in the southwest in the Guardian Post. Just when 2 billion francs CFA EU humanitarian aid to Northwest Southwest shrouded in controversy in the Horizon, the Guardian Post brings to the fore the over 3 billion CFA francs allocation by the UN for victims of humanitarian crisis in the Northwest Southwest regions. As calls from diplomats urge President Biya to continue dialogue process to end the crisis in the English-speaking regions in the Horizon and the Guardian Post. In response, President Biya said dialogue and negotiation key to ending any conflict in the zone, especially as 3.5 million persons are said to face food insecurity, with government sounding alarm in the Guardian Post. 1,000 people are then reported in Supreme State Audit's radar for alleged embezzlement in the post-weekender, and panic grips ministers as President Biya hints on arrest of these embezzlers in the reporters. And in order to ensure effective fight against corruption in the country, Konak boss urges MPs to vote law granting the institution independence in the Guardian Post. The same paper also reports that heads may roll as MPs trigger move for arrest of suspects of the Olembe Sports Complex construction scandal. With the Kumba Ekondo Titi Road construction in progress in Eco Outlook, the population of Meme and Zian divisions have saluted commitment on Kumba Ekondo Titi Road works in municipal updates and pledges collaboration in the Guardian Post. At a time Nigeria ignites another legal battle to reclaim Bakassi from Cameroon in the post-weekender, the Horizon says Nigeria disputes part of borderline with Cameroon. The start of the African Nations Championship in Algeria in Cameroon Tribune enails precision that electricity price increase do not concern households and small businesses in the Horizon. Feka Food Proximity Stadium still awaited in Bamenda in Cameroon Insider. World Bank's recommendation to prompt reforms to turn Cameroon's economy green in Eco Outlook, and the invasion of death ceremony in Bambui by military killing a masquerade and injuring several mourners also form stories reported by the papers this week. Let's now end our press review with this story in Cameroon Tribune, where a 17-year-old girl, Sophie Nelly Jordan, has committed suicide in Kribi by jumping off the first floor of the Kribi principal prison, where she was temporarily detained for jewelry theft. The incident last January 11 occurred after she was heard by the judge after spending 3 days in the police cell. She and her supposed boyfriend, aged 18, had been accused of stealing jewelries, yet the two had maintained their innocence. Witnesses recount that the 17-year-old Sophie Nelly Jordan had said she prefers to die since no one believes she is innocent before jumping off the building. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. God willing, we'll have you our way next Sunday for another edition of Press Hour, and you will be telling us what would have transpired in the press the week starting today. And there will be so much about the senatorial elections, gathering of the various files and submitting them at Lekam branch offices, and why not also forwarding them to the Constitutional Council as the law says. And talking about the senatorials, that is exactly what we are talking about now, because it's the spur of the moment that is convened for the 12th of March 2023. This should be the third time we're having senatorial elections in Cameroon. The first time was in 2013 and the second time in 2018. In 2013 was in April, in 2018 was in March, and this year 2023 it will be in March. Also 3 times of senatorial elections following the Constitution of Cameroon of 1996, because that's when we had the Senate in the Constitution. We have you, political philosopher Isidore Kwakom. What do you have to tell us about the agenda? First of all, the President respected the Constitutional Council, the laws of the state, to convene this before the end of the mandate that should have ended later in March.
Thank you, Killian. I believe that the head of state actually fulfilled his obligatory with respect to the 1996 law that put in place the senatorial election to complete the assembly, or the lower house of assembly.
To complete it.
To complete it, because it was just the National Assembly itself without the senatorial. with the head of state putting decreeing that the senatorial election will take place on the 12th of March is just but timely. And you see, for the calendar, I believe that all candidates are aware and conscious of the fact that with respect to Chapter 4, on the nomination of candidates for them to deposit before they can actually go to campaign, which will begin on the 15th. They must begin campaigns around the 15th and election before the election. With the nomination, when you follow the section 165 of the election, you realize that candidates are obliged to, put in place triplicates or 3 copies that contain their information, that is their full names, their affiliation, occupation, and place of residence. And that aside, they must put in their signature. That we should forward it to the General Election of Cameroon, or ELECAM, or as we generally call it.
Elections Cameroon.
Election Cameroon.
Yes, thank you. You're going into those details. We're going to treat that topic from a kind of area point of view. Just touch some of the important things. The first one is that this time the electorate, the Senate election is an indirect in the suffrage election. We mean that you have particular people, electoral college, the regional and municipal councillors. Those are the candidates. So now I expected you to tell us also that we have all the voters ready now with the putting in place of the regional councillors. Is that so?
Yes, all the regions already have the councillor because they already put in place and they are already there. And by now, they are expected to put all the list based on their respective parties and the list of the names in which the candidate is running. So they are there, and they already, as the president declared it, they know that they have to carry out the tasks that they are being assigned to.
Yes. Without the regional councillors, we were only having municipal councillors, and we had a little more than 9,000 voters for the Senate. That is in 2013 and in 2018. But now in 2023, that we have the regional councils put in place, we have now up to about 12,000 colleges for the Senate election. Yes, Killian, we just also want to tell you that the election, which is indirect, concerns and it insists that the candidates for the senatorial must be at least 40 years and must reside in Cameroon.
Yeah, absolutely, because the Senate is a very mature house. It's supposed to be a very mature house, and you want to get people who master a certain number of things to be able to vote. But my problem really with the way with the electoral calendar, so to speak.
Before we get to the problems, let us get what is correct. Then you get.
No. What is correct is that first of all, the calendar has been respected. It's normal that the head of state convenes the electoral college at the time he did. It gives a sense of stability to the political system. So I think that that alone is evident that our democratic system is exhibiting signs of stability. So it's normal that people begin to expect elections at a particular time. In other countries, they know the exact dates when elections will take place. Probably we are moving towards that kind of electoral arrangement, political arrangement, where people really master when elections are coming up, which elections are coming up at what time. Okay. So I think it's a good thing that the head of state continues to respect this political calendar that we have.
Thank you, Killian. You're talking about the maturity of the people. I also just want to tell you that both houses of Parliament are made up of mature people. The small thing that I expected you to point out is that the person who succeeds the head of state, who can eventually become president,
absolutely.
in case of a problem, comes from the Senate. So every senator must be Cameroonian, born and is residing in Cameroon. That adds to what you were talking about. Yes, Doctor, you got that convening of the senatorial election by the President of the Republic. What exactly do you have to tell the candidates? In 15 days from Friday, they have to have their papers ready, and they go by list system.
Yes, I think that the convincing process has already taken place. They need to make sure that the document gets to the different bureaus in time. And this time around, we need candidates that are able to fulfill the aspiration of the Cameroonian people. It's no more a showcasing game, and we think that the different political parties have already nominated candidates that could eventually become, wherever possible, become the president of this country. So knowing that they are representing a very important body in this country, we need matured, we need competent, and also we need dynamic patriots, as well as people who are closer to the people. That is why the elective body, elective college, are made up of the representative of the people.
Yes, let us point out here that the elections itself, each region elects 7 senators, and then the president appoints 3 to make 10, because each region should have 10 senators. That also shows that the law is made in such a way that if there are certain things to adjust, they could be adjusted. Well, just your comment, I'm not going to push you to a particular question, Dr. Joe Ngale. When you heard that the senatorial election, the college was convened by the President of the Republic within the time frame respecting the law, what were your reactions?
First of all, I think my reaction was based on the fact that the political calendar is being respected, which probably has been a problem in the past, postponement of elections. So I think honoring the calendar is one of the evidence to show that we heading towards the right direction in terms of democracy, because it's important that when the Senate or the Assembly makes this decision and constitution that the President himself signs and makes them into law, we have to respect that. And for him respecting that, I give him credit for that. Talking about also that somebody has to be the age of 40 is good, but at the same time, we have to be looking at experience and somebody's biography, because so many people can win election, but they're completely ill-prepared to do the job. They don't even know exactly when they get in there what their responsibilities are. So some of these things, that's why you see sometimes Western worlds will divide the election into groups, so that if everybody comes in as what we call amateur, then it becomes difficult. What happens if all new candidates win the election and everybody's new in the house? Then people start fumbling left and right. So sometimes one of those things I may suggest that they can make improvement on is trying to divide the election calendar, that maybe half of the Senate may run this year, and in 2 years the other half of the Senate may run. That way, even if all the 50 people win, you still have 50 people who know how to operate on the Senate floor. So
for now, we are going to follow what is already on the text.
Exactly.
Your suggestion is taken by, many people watch this program, and the people who matter actually watch this program. If your suggestion is touching them, they will obviously take into consideration. You're talking about the age 40. It is generally accepted that the age 40 is the age of maturity. I don't think that we should have any problem with that. Now, there is no lady on this set, and I have worked with ladies all my life, especially here on the set, and they are making me a he for she, and I cannot let ladies go without being represented here. We are going to go around, all of us, to talk about, there is a clause in the electoral code which actually takes care of the senatorial election, which says the sociological and gender aspect must be considered in drawing up list. And ladies, women want that there should be a quota given to them, not only a mention of that they should be a lady. we are going to start with you, doctor. What do you expect ladies, women to do now before the lists are submitted? It should be 13 days from now, given that the electoral college was convened on Friday. So what should ladies do so that there is something in the light of what political parties did, the CPDM, and pushed so many ladies to be represented in Parliament and in the Senate? What should be done between now and the day that the lists are submitted so that women are ably represented?
I think if that's what the Constitution says, then there should be women out there as well as men who are well experienced to be part of who can take part in the election and also have the knowledge to go in there and do the job that men do as well. So I will advise that if that is what the law says, then women should be given proper opportunities to also compete with the men and runners.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tumenka. This idea is not a matter of competence. Women have told us that they are competent and that the law, this electoral code, doesn't put men and women at a certain level for them to come in. They want the law to be clear, to take into consideration quarter representation of women, so that some of you men, you don't play the politics of the back door and push them out. They should have their place. What will you say? Because this is exactly what happened in 2013. The president of the CPDM, the national chairman of the CPDM, told his people that any list that you draw without a lady being a substantive candidate will not pass. That's how women came. So it is on this type of reasoning that I am asking you, what should women do?
I think that the free will and the free will of the party leadership plays a vital role. But as women have requested in the past, we need to get to a quota system where incentives are set for the different lists to actually fulfill certain quota. Nevertheless, I think that women in different parties should step up. And I think this is a very important opportunity for parties to get these women ahead, because with the competencies of these women, they will emerge top of many lists. So it is in the enlightened self-interest of the parties themselves to bring out the able women in this list, and the women should show up and also get their document ready.
Killian, you got my question. What should women do so that the leaders of their party make it mandatory that they should be not alternate but substantive?
First of all, politics is a very rugged game. It's a game of competition, and you are not just going to cherry pick and pick somebody and put there because it's a woman. What I think is that over some time women have been empowered. Remember that this thing is coming from Beijing, that historically women have been excluded from the decision-making spheres, and therefore there is a need to engender, to do what you call gender mainstreaming, making sure that women take part in the political processes. It's very difficult to just handpick a woman and say, we want you to represent it. The woman should
they will not be happy with that statement because they don't want to be handpicked. I think they say they are competent.
Nobody will handpick them. I think that, like Doctor said, women should begin to show
haven't they showed that a lot?
But they should compete. I mean, the whole thing is about competition. It's about
we are talking about the law. And the law says there should be a consideration of gender and sociological. That is an appendix, an annex. They are saying the law should state it.
There were lists. I think there were lists that were rejected because they didn't have women in those lists. There are lists that are rejected because you do not have a certain socio-political component of a population, because the whole thing is about inclusivity. You want to include everybody in the decision-making spheres, and therefore, when a woman shows, this political maturity to go in for election, the parties concerned, they put you there, but you should be able to campaign and convince the electorate, because the electorate, they are not going to vote you into office only because you are a woman. And I even think it's insulting to think that women should be put there because they are women. is really insulting to women, I think.
We agree with that. We are saying the law should not put them aside, so they start struggling. So because of that,
I don't think the law has put them
it
aside.
has.
What the law?
The law has just said the consideration of gender and sociological representation.
Yes.
It actually puts them to the side. We are going to go to Isidore Kwakom.
Yeah.
What should political party leaders do so that kind of vacuum be filled for women to have the same representation in relation to men?
Yes, I think that the law is very fair here. The law have not discriminated. The law says that everybody or every Cameroonian is qualified to compete. And so therefore, if a lady is a Cameroonian and credible enough, should go to the field to campaign, get the papers, and go convince the electorate. Because even in the electoral code, the one of the conditions on 165, section 165 says that they should parties should take into consideration gender.
Why? That is exactly where we are coming from. That one is coming from a background where women have been relegated. So in order to bring that up, there should be special measures like the one I quoted. In 2013, the chairperson of the CPDM took on himself to say any list that does not have, because I know what women will do. When we go to making the list, we don't look at competence at that time, because politics is not really competence as such. Politics is interest. It's a zero-sum game, like politicians have said. I'm looking for my interest. I'm not looking for competence. I think we cannot belabor that point.
Politics is not a zero-sum game. Life is a field of, it's a sphere of enlightened self-interest. I think it will be detrimental for politicians to get politicians that will reduce their aspiration of getting majority. Politics is a field to get majority. Business is a field for profit, and education is a field for truth. These are the three fundamental parts. In politics, I go for majority. In business, I go for profit. And in science, in research, we go for truth. The most important thing now is to make sure that scientists should come out with results that will give majority to politicians and with results that will give profit to business people, for them to be in a self-fulfilling atmosphere. So I think politics is not in a crooked democracy, which our democracy is not part of it. We still look at politics to be a zero-sum game. Politics is a win-win game, and that's where we are moving in with the senatorial election.
Thank you. I will not belabor that point. I leave it at that. But we are appealing to political party leaders to make sure that the little vacuum, because we still call it that is created by the law, should not make women an appendix. They should make women part and parcel of the game. And with that, we're going to move on to our focus today, just after this interlude. Absence of that, we are going to move ahead. Yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just tuning in, this is CRTV and the program is Press R. We are broadcasting live from the production center at Balatu in Yaoundé. And if you are not able to be moving away from your screen, you can connect and watch us live on your handset. If you connect to www.crtv web, you go to our Facebook page, you're going to see we are streaming live from there. Our focus today is the recurrent scarcity of fuel in our pumps. What is the problem? And generally, it's a global problem. We want to know what actually is the problem. We are going to start with Dr. Jongale Awasume, what actually is the problem that we have? At one point, people just start being scared. There's no fuel in the pumps, and before we know it, we don't see the fuel coming from somewhere, and then there is fuel again on the pumps. What is happening?
Killian, I was in Yaoundé last week, and what I experienced is when long lines started streaming on the road and traffic was blocked. And I was so curious when I asked what was happening. And they said scarcity of fuel. And the day after, the scarcity was over. And I was so puzzled, and I started asking myself, I mean, I'm a professional auditor in fuel, tax, and one of the things that started coming in my mind is somebody should be holding the product somewhere, because it cannot be scarce today and then the next day it's
available in abundance.
So, and that's, to me, I think is the problem we're having right now, that people are hoarding fuel for profit making within a short period of time. But this is very, very dangerous to our economy, because fuel by itself is a product that is used mainly in our production industries. So a direct increase in the price of fuel increases the cost of production. And cost of production increases, it means there is a cost increase in prices. So it's not only going to generate the increase in the fuel, in the next couple of months down the road, a year, all the production that is taking place within this period, prices will go up, and that will eventually lead to inflation. Right now we're already facing inflation globally. Prices are really up, and the worst decision to make during inflation is to add inflation upon inflation. I think the economy will bloat if we're not careful. So my point in it is, as an auditor, if you gave me the chance to review this problem, then I will go to all the terminals to do proper auditing and see the fuel available in the tank, when the fuel came in, when was the fuel delivered to the tank, and what happened yesterday that was scarce, what caused the scarcity. You will realize some people will be caught hoarding fuel. And I'm not an expert in law, but I think hoarding sounds criminal.
Actually, criminal. Neither myself, I'm an expert in law, but hoarding is criminal in business. Dr. Awasume has doubted what should be the real problem. He has brought up the problem of hoarding, but we are informed, I think reliably informed, that the problem is with marketers. There should be those who are hoarding. What is that where the problem also could be?
Yeah, I think Doctor actually made mention of the fact that the speculative nature of the market, which plays a vital role, because business is part of asymmetric information. If I have the information, I have the products, I can play with it. But if we need to understand this problem, we need to look at it beyond our borders. You know, we are importing fuel, these products out of our borders, and sometimes with our cribby deep sea port, some of these products get into bigger tanks and has to wait for the fulfillment of some of the administrative procedures before they are finally taken into the different storage system in the country. And sometimes, if the processes are not efficient enough, we might have minor supply chain disruption. But again, the most important issue is the demand and supply of the fuel products. We are just getting out of the festive period, and during festive period, the consumption of fuel went up, and the supply of fuel, due to the subsidies that the government is actually pumping in, approximately 700 billion as per last year, we are not actually getting this fuel the way we wanted. And again, it's very difficult for the government to forecast which quantity do we actually need? Because with the nice and increase in infrastructural development within the country, the importation of cars coming in, the demand for fuel products also increase proportionately. So I think that we should look at it from three ends. One is the importation and supply disruption due to partly the Ukraine and Russian war. Secondly is the amount of subsidies that the government has to pump in somehow to make sure that we get the adequate quantity. And the third part is we still have administrative bottlenecks, to get these goods at the right time, at the right station. Again, speculation plays a vital role. Why we eliminate speculation, but we think that we need some hygienic situation, sanitary measures within the whole chain of affairs.
Your intervention is very methodic. I like that so much, Doctor, but you have not explained so well that aspect of subsidies by government. The subsidies 700 billion as of last year, and I think it was more the year before last, a little over 700 billion. And in his end of year speech, the president said we may not continue to subsidize because it's too heavy for government. Government has some other these things. So that is where the marketers are afraid. That's why I brought in the idea of marketers. That, well, if you will not give us the money again the way you were giving, what do? We go and buy more expensive. We cannot come and sell cheap.
Well, I think one thing which is clear, and after the IMF recent meetings in Cameroon, they did not actually stand against the increase in the subsidies. And the government of Cameroon has to be very clear with at this point. They have to come out and say, we are not going to increase or we are not going to eliminate the fuel subsidies, and then everything stops. But I think that nobody is sure if they are going to stop it, because globally, the global trend is that most of the countries that provided fuel subsidies are gradually removing it. Cameroon tried this in 2014. Cameroon did that, but reluctantly, because the consequences of removing the fuel subsidies might be devastating, taking into consideration that in 2008 we saw what happened. So we are still wondering if at this stage of our democracy we should do that. But as economists, we are expecting something else to happen. The subsidies idea is that the government, the price at which we pay at the pump, is actually less than the price at which we buy these products abroad. So the government of Cameroon is doing income redistribution, supporting purchasing power by actually subsidizing the fuel. But we should be very careful that speculative measures should not force citizens to suffer double. And again, one of the most important things is that the government of Cameroon has this price stabilization, hydrocarbon price stabilization agency that actually deals with this issue. And with the Ministry of Commerce, they need to go out, as Dr. rightly said, they need to go out and make sure that speculative measures, hoarding measures should be eradicated. So I think that Cameroonians, as per se, if we want to believe what the government's apparatus are saying, we should go ahead with our businesses and make sure we engage in more productivity.
Very much so. You wanted to react before I go to Kilian and Isidore. Yes.
Yes, Kilian. One thing that I want to follow up that Dr. Tumen just said, the cost of fuel is influenced also, the increase in price, by distribution cost.
Yes.
And in supply chain, that is one of the biggest contributor to price increases, because in today's economy, cost of distribution of goods is almost contributing 40% to the prices of goods.
Okay.
So if you improve the distribution of channels, then that is going to minimize the cost as well, because there are various modes of transportations. When I take, for example, fuel is brought into Yaoundé from Douala and using truckers, and if you take 100 trucks to deliver fuel versus the truck would have been pulled by a single locomotive will be very, very cost effective, and that will reduce the cost of price. So we need to also take into consideration the distribution cost.
Thank you very much. Killian, I should ask you, possible adjustments by Cameroon to meet global trends?
Let me just add to what the other panelists have said, that the Minister of Water and Energy actually indicated that part of the problem causing the scarcity is that the government, we are facing so many crises, and the government is spending a lot of money. And at one point, the government did not give the subsidies in time, and that created problems with importation. And like you indicated, the marketers they are worried when government starts talking about removing subsidies because the marketers are finding it very difficult getting money from the banks. So these are some of the things that will constrain the importation of this. And then you are talking about ways to go around this.
Yes.
I begin to see what the government is doing, trying to raise taxes. We're getting taxes on fiscal stamps, we're getting taxes on various things. But I think this is potentially explosive because when you are raising taxes at a time when inflation is already up, then what you are actually doing, you are removing money from people's pockets.
Well, what I should say without being defensive is that most of those taxes are from people who have
I don't think so.
Roadworthiness certificates.
Yeah.
You have insurance. You have some of these things. Only those who have money have things that use some of those things. Now I'm going to move over to
fiscal stamps.
Well, for fiscal stamps, yes, you only go for fiscal stamp when there is an event.
And I say this because why I say it's a dangerous policy is because the government has a plan to get to a certain level of development by 2030. Make sure that production, for example, gets to 25% of the GDP. When you're raising taxes, even on businesses, what's going to happen is that those businesses may begin to fold up, or sometimes some of them may slip into the informal sector, and they will not be paying those taxes. And I say this because I was in Betua recently, and I met a restaurant owner who is a lady who actually built a nice restaurant, a nice house, put her restaurant there, and then the taxation people came and evaluated it at hotel rates. So what she did, she simply relocated to a remote area, a nasty looking place, but she already has her customers. So she moved to where she will not be paying taxes. So what I'm saying is that when you impose too many taxes on people, what you are actually doing, you are killing the tax base. So I think the government should have been probably expanding the tax base, but not increasing taxes.
Okay,
that's by encouraging more businesses to come into the formal sector. I think about 90% of businesses are still in the informal sector.
Yes, actually, I give you credit for your point. Possible price adjustments. Yes, you've said that to Isidore. I asked you this question. You are a researcher in political philosophy. Possible social and political spillovers with all of this?
Yeah, before I come to the possible spillover, I would like to first of all look at some of the causes, because when I followed the communique from the Minister of Energy, it was clearly stated and was quite factual, because the Russia-Ukraine invasion is actually a global problem, because even the Russia itself that is one of the highest supplier of gasoline and this fuel product across the globe, and then the trade link with Moscow as equally blocked. Meanwhile, Moscow is the highest person or country that is buying from Russia and distributing because they don't have this problem with Ukraine. And now, when you come to our country, you look at the distribution channel, as Dr. Ngale said, it's actually a cause of this fuel problem. For instance, in my community, in Menchum, we have just one filling station like Womb Center. When you go to other subdivisions like Zua, or in Funkom subdivision, there is no filling station. When the filling station in Womb has fuel, it means that bike riders need to buy some from little businessmen and carry to remote areas. And when they carry it to remote areas, you cannot expect the price of fuel to be the same. But when you come to Yaoundé, around Douala, the price is equally different because they are closer to the depot, like Besenge. when you come to Yaoundé, the price is different.
No, it's the same.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the same.
Yeah, it's the
but
same.
in our area, it is not the same. So it is making life more difficult and harder to our people. So I think that for government to come out of this, they should at least maybe be patriotic to help these businessmen and increase depot nearer to the people. Because if people have this depot nearer to them, they'll easily have this fuel and prices will be stabilized and harmonized.
Yes, I will stay with you. I spoke with one of the major stakeholders of state in this, and in 2008 and 2014, when the doctor was talking about, we had serious problems because there was a possibility to increase prices. And in 2014, this person who is in charge of actually making sure that prices remain at a level that is affordable to people told us as a corporation that it is thanks to the privatization or liberalization of that sector that the government came out of that, because people, different people were bringing. If it were government alone, it would have been difficult. But what you are saying is a bit different from that. Instead, liberalization of the sector helps, because you have so many people who supply, who go buy and bring.
Okay, liberalize the place, it helps, it is true, but to an extent. Because you see that there's scarcity today and tomorrow there's petrol. What is happening? It means that some mischievous businessmen create artificial scarcity so that tomorrow they can make much profit, which is normal in business. And let me tell you that if they do as they are doing this way, if you go back to our areas, even in Limbe, I've seen people sell local fuel. In Bomonoga, Douala, they sell local fuel, which is in form of tax.
Local, what do you mean by local?
Unrefined fuel.
No, that one is illegal. So we can now even talk about that. Yes, that one is illegal. So from time to time, you see there's crackdown on that. It should be discouraged, because we have had fire incidents because of such activity. We cannot even go into that, because that should be suppressed. We have had so many fire incidents due to that type of thing. Yes, we've been talking about taxes. Dr. Ngale is a fuel tax audit expert. Let us say, with the increase in the taxes that we have had, if the taxes are collected, are recovered, as we say, tax recovery, effectively, will government not have enough not to think of increasing any price, because they will have enough money to continue to subsidize?
That's true. Tax recovery by government is something very important, because when they subsidize, then they have to find a way of recovering the taxes. However, you're looking at an economy, you cannot be pointing your arrow in one direction, because any decision you make creates either another problem or creates a solution to other problems. Now, which I will tell you, if government stops subsidies today, that is going to be a disastrous to businesses, and the multiplier effect on that will increase prices of products, and revenue of those businesses will eventually go down, because when prices are right up, consumers won't be able to buy. Lots of people will prefer to trade on food than driving cars, or anything that somebody might decide to use, who used to buy, go to the market and spend 100,000, will now want to spend only 10,000 because they don't have. So what that means is that low revenue to most businesses will lead to layoffs, unemployment, because when companies are not healthy, they start laying off workers. And that comes to what the question you asked about, the social implications. It's going to create increase in employment, and poverty level is going to go up. Crime wave is going to go up, because that is the consequence of poverty level. Poverty level increases, crime waves up, and at the same time living standards will go down. So you will realize that most businesses won't be even be able to pay taxes, because they have low revenue. So if you have to compare both, then government has to look at what are we paying into subsidies, and what are the consequences on tax collection from these businesses that is going to result from the failure of the businesses. And I think if almost 75% of businesses fail in Cameroon today, you're not talking about 700 billion tax lost.
I think
that would be trillions.
That must have been what government did since 2008 when we witnessed what we witnessed. And I think since that time, there has been no increase in fuel prices. I think it's directly concerned with what we were talking about, Dr. Kennedy. The replica effects, we are still on that.
Yes, the replica effect of increase in different taxes is, let's take it from the economic point of view. It is, I think, not in the enlightened self-interest of the government to even do that, because we are in the second phase of our growth and development strategy. The national development strategy is about industrialization. We have the import substitution strategy, which means that we are boosting local productivity and local consumption. Imagine this: if we try to increase taxes of, let's say, the fuel products, then you are indirectly reducing the capacity of this, say, the productive economy to be able to produce those goods and services at affordable prices. And again, if you look at the African continental free trade coming in, then we are, our productive economy will get to the worst stage. So I'm not sure, because look, the sanitary system that was that the head of state put in his speech was very clear. We need to make sure that instead of increasing taxes, we should make sure that those who have been illegally taking money out of the government coffers should bring it back, 1. 2, we need to improve our infrastructural system, making sure that the cost of production reduces. 3, we need to put the private sector at the center. I think for the past years, it was very clear that to drive the national development strategy, is the private sector that has to take it in. So I think that like Kilem actually made mention of it, we need to broaden the tax base. And I am not a fan of increasing taxation, because increasing taxation means I'm redistributing. We are redistributing what? We have 80 to 90% of our economy in the informal sector. And what we as economists have discovered is that we are seeing a gradual crowding out of the formal economy into the informal economy. Nevertheless, the apparatus that the government have put in place through the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, the Ministry of Vocational Training, the Ministry of Social Affairs, all of these instruments are there to boost the productive economy. And I think that with the income substitution effect, we can and should be able to evade. Let me just make mention of this. We are looking at government, but our behavioral pattern, our consumption pattern, our wasteful nature, I mean, the whole economy, we have a financial we need financial sanitary system to make sure that we do not misuse public goods in such a way that we believe that government's goods are not paid by citizens itself. We need a certain economic education and more over a certain type of ethics.
Thank you. We really need that. Killian, Dr. Tumenta just talked about the free trade zone, and he's saying we shouldn't increase fuel prices and taxes and all of that, knowing that the countries around us have already increased. How do we go into that free trade zone? We have not increased, all the other countries have increased.
I think every country has its own policies, and Cameroon can be no exception. You have to look at the comparative advantage of increasing taxes or subsidizing fuel. So you really need to look at that. And who are we even subsidizing here? Who is benefiting from these subsidies? You have government ministers who don't pay fuel. These are the guys who really draw the benefits. So if we can begin to look at a system where
they pay fuel for private things. They don't pay fuel for official business.
What is the difference between anyway, we're not going into that because we know exactly what's happening. And when you look at the amount of fuel that's allocated, to government ministers, not ministries, to ministers, the amounts are frightening. And you're asking, where do they travel to? Somebody who is loitering around here in Yaoundé, going from one office to the other, probably escorted by policemen. Therefore, you don't even spend time in traffic, and then you are getting that kind of amounts. Those kinds of amounts.
Probably that is what you see. What he does, you don't see. You cannot.
I don't think that.
You need to do a kind of research to know exactly
Well, I mean,
how they do.
I'm just saying it because we know that there are even fuel coupons that have expired in some in the offices of some people.
Yes.
And I disagree with you when you said that some of these tax increases that we're seeing are targeting the rich, because when you increase these vehicle stamps and so on and so forth, that is the transportation sector. You know, we are an agricultural country, so when you increase that, you are indirectly increasing the price of transportation. When you go to the hinterlands and you carry food to sell in the markets, those guys who are transporting those vehicles, they transfer the cost to the final consumer. It's as simple as that.
Yes, I concede to that. We have 2 minutes to go. Isidore, your last word, and then we go around.
I think
how do we come out of this to make sure that the recurrent fuel scarcity, we don't have that?
I think that to come out of this situation, government need to cut down its expenditure. I would like to queue up here with Killian that most of these our government officials have a lot of petrol bonds in the houses. That's a time that you don't even take and waste out. So the relevant government cut down its expenditure. And of course, citizens should be patriotic to understand that this is our country and not other person's country.
Okay, Dr. Tumenta?
I think that we, at all levels, we need to improve the hygiene of our economy, of our consumption pattern. And again, the private sector is the way out. We need to broaden our tax base, meaning that the small and medium-sized enterprises need to be encouraged. And again, if we do not do that, the government has no other choice but to increase, because at the end of the day, if it's difficult for us, then the citizens themselves directly has to feel it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngale.
Yes, I think the focus here should be, as I mentioned earlier, fuel subsidy shouldn't be taken away. Government should continue to maintain that. Otherwise, it's going to create a multiplier effect that is going to blow down our economy. And then the number 2 thing is, when there is artificial scarcity of fuel, it is important that auditors go to the field and review the farm tanks of all the suppliers to ensure there was no fuel when they said there was scarcity of fuel.
Yeah, thank you. And fuel is the live wire of all the activities that we have around us. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Dr. Joe Ngale Awasumi, fuel tax audit expert who traveled all the way from Limbe for this program. We wish you a safe journey back. Thank you. We are honored by your presence.
Thank you, sir.
We also had Dr. Tumenta Kennedy, who is an economist. He gave the expertise in economics during the program. You were there. You are witnesses. Thank you very much, Doctor, for coming. We also had Ngala Killian, who, without being an expert, anyway, he's an expert and as a reporter by his rights, and you also followed him do all of that with expertise. Thank you very much, Killian. And to you, Isidore Kwakom, who is a researcher in political philosophy, thank you very much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so grateful for your time. And if you miss out on this program from the beginning, you will have a full rebroadcast on Monday at 2:30. Or simply wherever you are, you can connect to www.crtv web. You go to our Facebook and you will have it anywhere you are. Thanks very much. Have a blessed day.